Hi, it's Frank. This test is required for anyone applying for a commercial driver's license in Michigan. It covers the general knowledge required to safely operate a commercial motor vehicle, CMV, including safe driving practices, vehicle inspection, air brake operation, and cargo securement rules. Let's get started. The minimum tread depth for front tires on a commercial motor vehicle, CMV, is 430 inch. Federal regulations mandate a minimum tread depth of 430 inch for the steering axle tires. Let's continue. For all other tires, non-steering axle, the minimum tread depth is 230 inch. All tires that are not on the front steering axle must have a minimum tread depth of 230 inch. Moving on. How far ahead should you scan the road while driving a heavy vehicle? 12 to 15 seconds. Scanning this far ahead provides ample time to spot hazards and safely adjust speed or position for a large vehicle. Time for the next question. What is the main cause of most serious vehicle skids? Driving too fast for road conditions. Most skids happen because the driver exceeds the speed at which the tires can maintain traction with the road surface. Next up, when should you downshift a manual transmission CMV? Before starting down a hill or entering a curve. Downshifting before the maneuver ensures you use engine braking and maintain vehicle control without relying heavily on the service brakes. Let's continue. What is the term for a thin, nearly invisible layer of ice on the road? Black ice. Black ice is extremely dangerous because it is hard to see and provides very little traction. Moving on. If you are being tailgated, what should you do to create more space? Increase your own following distance, space ahead. Creating more space in front of your vehicle allows you to brake more gradually, giving the tailgater more time to react. Time for the next question. What is the proper procedure for testing your hydraulic brakes for a leak? Pump the pedal 3 times, then hold it down for 5 seconds. The pedal should not move. If the pedal slowly sinks during the 5-second hold, a leak exists in the hydraulic system. Next up, what is the best way to handle an aggressive driver, road rager? Safely move out of their way and avoid eye contact. The best defense is to eliminate confrontation by creating distance and refusing to engage. Let's continue. The total stopping distance for a CMV is the sum of perception distance plus reaction distance plus braking distance. Total stopping distance accounts for the time it takes to see the hazard, decide to react, and stop the vehicle. Moving on. To prevent brake fade on a long downgrade, you should select a low gear before descending to use engine braking. Engine braking saves the service brakes for light, intermittent use, preventing them from overheating and failing. Time for the next question. What is the maximum allowable free play in the steering wheel of a CMV? No more than 10 degrees, about 2 inches on a 20-inch wheel. Excessive play indicates a defect in the steering system that must be repaired. Next up, what should you check to ensure the wheel lugs are secured on the rim? Look for rust streaks or shiny metal around the lug nuts. These visual signs indicate that the lug nuts have been moving, suggesting they are loose. Let's continue. What is the key rule for securing all cargo? It must be secured to prevent rolling, shifting, or falling. Cargo must remain firmly in place during normal driving maneuvers and sudden stops to ensure safety. Moving on. What is the most common cause of a vehicle fire? Short circuits and loose electrical connections. Electrical system faults are frequently the origin point for CMV fires due to arcing or overheating wires. Time for the next question. If your accelerator pedal sticks, what is the first action you should take? Shift to neutral or push in the clutch. Cutting engine power is the immediate priority to stop the vehicle from accelerating out of control. Next up, what does the acronym ABS stand for? Anti-lock braking system. ABS is a computerized system that prevents wheel lockup during hard braking. Let's continue. What is the maximum air pressure loss allowed in a single vehicle, non-combination, with the engine off and brakes applied, within 1 minute? No more than 3 psi. A drop greater than 3 psi indicates a severe air leak that must be addressed. Moving on. When driving in mountain areas, which gear should you use for descending a long grade? A gear low enough to slow the vehicle without excessive braking. Choose a gear that keeps the vehicle speed at a safe level using engine braking alone, only requiring brief service brake application. Time for the next question. When making a wide right turn, you should Check your mirrors to make sure no vehicle is between you and the curb before turning. This is essential to avoid squeezing or hitting another vehicle that might try to pass on your right side. Next up, why is it important to check your vehicle's coolant level before a trip to prevent the engine from overheating? Sufficient coolant is necessary to maintain the engine's operating temperature and avoid costly damage. Let's continue. Why is backing a CMV considered one of the most dangerous maneuvers? CMVs have large blind spots, and backing is difficult to manage. The lack of rear visibility makes backing a leading cause of preventable accidents. Moving on. If you are convicted of a traffic violation in another state, you must notify your employer within 30 days. Federal regulations require this notification for any traffic conviction in any vehicle, anywhere. Time for the next question. What is the main function of the supply pressure gauge in an air brake system? It shows the amount of air pressure in the air tanks. This gauge monitors the total air available for the braking system. Next up, what should you do immediately if you discover hazardous material is leaking from your vehicle? Safely park the vehicle, isolate the area, and call for help. The priority is public safety. Secure the area and immediately report the leak to emergency services. Let's continue. What is the minimum number of tie downs required for any piece of cargo, regardless of length? 2. All pieces of cargo, no matter how short, must be secured by at least 2 tie downs. Moving on. What is the greatest potential danger when driving through a tunnel or underpass? The sudden change in lighting and visibility. The quick transition from light to dark and back can temporarily impair a driver's vision. Time for the next question. What is the best way to alert drivers behind you that you are about to slow down? Flash your brake lights by pushing and releasing the brake pedal lightly. Tapping the pedal a few times draws attention to your brake lights, warning traffic to prepare for a slowdown. Next up, what does the gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, represent? The maximum weight specified by the manufacturer for the single vehicle. The GVWR is the maximum safe operating weight for the vehicle itself, including cargo and passengers. Let's continue. What must you do before taking the skills test for a CDL? Hold a commercial learner's permit, CLP, for at least 14 days. This mandatory holding period is required by federal law. Moving on. When is it safe to remove the radiator cap in a pressurized cooling system? When the system pressure is 0 and the engine is cool. Removing the cap when the system is hot or pressurized can result in severe scalding from hot coolant spray. Time for the next question. Why should you inspect your slack adjusters on air brakes? To ensure they are not bent, broken, or loose, which causes excessive brake play. Damaged slack adjusters can prevent the brakes from working correctly and are a major safety violation. Next up, what is the best practice to avoid an accident if you have a tire blowout? Hold the steering wheel firmly and stay off the brakes. Maintain a firm grip to control the vehicle's direction and allow the vehicle to slow down gradually. Let's continue. When driving in heavy rain, what should you be most aware of? Hydroplaning. Heavy rain creates a risk of tires riding on top of the water rather than the road surface, leading to a loss of control. Moving on. When should you turn off your retarder engine brake? When the road is slippery, wet, icy, or snow-covered. Retarders can cause the drive wheels to lose traction on low-friction surfaces, leading to skidding. Time for the next question. What should you do if your oil pressure drops while driving? Stop immediately and safely park the vehicle. A loss of oil pressure is a severe emergency that requires immediate shutdown to prevent catastrophic engine failure. Next up, what is the function of the governor in an air brake system? It controls when the air compressor pumps air into the air tanks. The governor sets the cut-in, start pumping, and cut-out, stop pumping pressures for the compressor. Let's continue. What can happen if you load cargo too high on a vehicle? It raises the center of gravity, meaning increasing the risk of rollover. A high center of gravity makes the vehicle less stable, especially when cornering. Moving on. What is the correct hand position on the steering wheel when driving a CMV? 10 and 2 o'clock or 9 and 3 o'clock. These positions give you the best control and leverage over the steering wheel. Time for the next question. If your vehicle breaks down on the side of the road, how soon must you place warning devices, triangles? within 10 minutes. You must set out your warning triangles quickly to alert oncoming traffic to the hazard. Next up, what is the primary cause of a fire in the cargo area of a CMV? Improperly secured or leaking cargo, including fuel oil. Movement, friction, or the ignition of flammable cargo are the most common causes. Let's continue. What is the most important factor in determining how fast you can safely drive on a downgrade? The road grade and length of the grade. The steepness and duration of the hill are what determine the necessary low gear and safe speed to prevent brake failure. Moving on. What should you use to signal an emergency to other drivers? Four-way flashers or turn signals. Four-way flashers are the primary method for warning traffic of a disabled or slow-moving vehicle. Time for the next question. How does excessive speed affect your ability to avoid hazards? It increases your stopping distance and reduces your reaction time. Faster speeds give you less margin for error and require a much longer distance to stop. Next up, what is the importance of checking your vehicle's exhaust system during a pre-trip inspection? To check for leaks that could allow poisonous fumes, carbon monoxide, into the cab. Exhaust leaks pose a severe health risk to the driver. Let's continue. The air pressure gauge shows you how much pressure is in the air tanks. This question is a repeat, but the answer remains the same. The gauge monitors the supply air pressure. Moving on. What is the danger of letting the air pressure drop too low in an air brake system? The spring brakes, emergency brakes, will activate automatically. If the pressure drops below the cut-in level, the parking emergency brakes will engage, causing a dangerous and abrupt stop. Time for the next question. What is the safest way to check if a lane is clear before changing lanes? Check all mirrors and perform a head check. The head check is mandatory to cover the blind spot that mirrors cannot eliminate. Next up, when driving through a work zone, what is the most important rule? Slow down and obey all posted warning signs and speed limits. Work zones have reduced speed limits and workers close to the roadway requiring maximum caution. Let's continue. What is the definition of a hazard in defensive driving? Any condition that requires a change in your driving or speed. A hazard is anything that requires an adjustment to your normal driving routine. That wraps up our practice session for the Michigan CDL General Knowledge exam. Keep reviewing this material and you'll be ready for your test.